Good day, friends. Thank you tonight for joining us for the podcast, the live version of the podcast, Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches. We have a live platform here, and of course, we are here to reach out to people who've been hurt, maybe disenfranchised from the church, to give them some encouragement to return and to seek the Lord. We have an excellent staff that works with us. Sister Lolita, she works with the programming. Neil directs a technical part of this broadcast. We got about 25 contributors, and we thank God for those who are in support of the outreach. And again, we're just glad to have you here tonight. My name is Prince, licensed counselor, founder of Antioch Youth Center, retired. But as I said earlier, we're glad to have you here tonight. Friends, we want to thank our viewers from last week. We just checked the stats for YouTube. That was just about 101, and we thank God for that. But we've got other ones. We are on iHeart, we're on Sitter, Amazon Music, Pandora. We haven't checked those yet, but we thank God for those who we do have on YouTube and other areas of Facebook. So tonight is not a live broadcast, but if you do have questions, you can email those questions to our Wounded Hearts email, and that is reeeechone@aol.com, reeeechone@aol.com. And we'll take those questions and answer them on our next live broadcast. Also, you can call the Wounded Hearts, our telephone number, and that's 478-283-9093, 478-283-9093. Friends, the reasons that we meet is to reach out to those. And the discussions we have are quite sensitive at times, and they will need some listener discretion. But make no mistake, our only focus here, we're not a church, but we're here to implement much as we can to sustain those three things: healing, forgiveness, reconciliation within the Church of God. So join us in becoming ministers of reconciliation. We do thank God for our letters coming in. They're coming in almost each week now, and that's a blessing. And friends, we do want to thank again for those who contact us. And this is a letter of healing reconciliation, so we're in support of that. It's a little bit lengthy, and I'll do the best I can to expedient time. It's from a young man named Jonathan Burton, and he's offering a letter along with a invitation, and I'm quoting now. The Burton family together is reminiscent of the times we used to be in the Burton household. We've reached out to so many friends and many who haven't we seen in 30 or 40 years. So we want to take the opportunity to do a recall and reach out and talk to friends and others whom have been scattered as a result of differences that really had nothing to do with us. So we want to get together, love on one another, and see one another. Letter again from Jonathan Burton. He also sent in an itinerary for October 21st weekend this year. Friday will be a dinner serving chili, etc. There'll be a men's breakfast that Saturday morning. And of course, they're having a sing around the piano although that evening. And of course, Sunday, they're planning a praise fest, 10:30. For more info, you can call area code 937-450-6140. And that's Pam Burton Jones. Again, that number for more information is 937-450-6140. And of course, Rhoda Burton Linton, that number is 909-244-7530. So we're all in support of reconciliation, friends. That's what we're here to do. Support much as we can. I want to introduce our speaker tonight, our platform guest, and we're happy to have Pastor Brown here again. No stranger, Church of God, been around for years and years and years, and he enjoys extensive outreach in Africa. I've been in contact with some of the people there, and they enjoy his ministry to the African nation parts of that. So we want to get an African update from him. And of course, we're glad to have him here again. Side note, Brother Brown, his last visit here, he was up to 900, just about 1,000 listeners, 970 at a check. pretty high numbers for a podcast. So, Brother Brown, good to have you. Let's give him a round of applause. So a hand for him. They're glad he's here. So we just want to glad you're here, my friend. So again, Brother Brown, give us an African update, if you would, please.
Yes, sir. A lot of things has happened in the past year, but about a year ago, I discovered a need there in Africa. One of the widows I knew, her husband died from COVID, and I discovered a great need when I heard from her. And so I started a mission where I was taking care of the widows, the poor widows, and the children. And so these widows, they were so appreciative of what I was doing. They were inviting people over to their home to listen to me as I preached on Facebook each night. And between both homes, within the first month, we were averaging about 50 people, maybe 55 people, both homes combined.
Wow.
And then the landlord at Sister Mac's house, remember her in prayer, I'll tell you about her later, he got so upset with about 35 people come to his apartment complex every night, he kicked the Church of God out.
Oh, wow.
He said, y'all turning my apartment into church. Of course, to make a long story short, he in prison and lost everything he had now. But another story.
Wow.
So we went here and so I just had to go and rent 2 buildings. For one widow is about 6 hours apart from the other. So I went and rented 2 church buildings so we don't have the problem again. Wow. And within the first 2 months, both church buildings have a combined capacity of 200. Within 2 months, we grew our sale, had to turn people away.
Wow.
So in the past 3 months, we had to rent 2 bigger church buildings that hold a total capacity of 600. And we're now averaging about per night coming to church every single night. So I'm preaching every single night. Wow. And the Lord is really blessing. And the church is growing. And then we got one other widow 2 hours away from Kenya. She's averaging 18 per night in her home, but I can't afford to rent another 3rd building. But I know people's on fire. They're really excited for the word of God. It's a poor town. The wages are very low. You're either rich or you're very poor. So the average, you have to work 12 hours a day, even doing hard labor for $7 per day after working 12 hours. So that is pay for them. Now, a lot of the people are poor, so usually after service, the mothers and the children are hungry. So usually they go to Sister Mac's home, and she fixed rice and beans. Nobody can afford to buy meat over there. And so great for food. And then unfortunately, about 2 weeks ago, about 14 masked robbers came over in a big truck, tied up the guard complex and robbed all 4 homes and took everything she had, furniture, and they left only the on her back. Took children and everything. So we finally was able to buy her one new dress a week ago, but so she needs help. Well, she needs furniture right now. She's sleeping on the floor. I've been able to buy some magical. I'm stretched out paying everything. And she texted me today, could I buy her a coat? I said I can't right now. So she really needs prayer, but she's strong in the Lord.
Amen.
So the need is very, very great. Sometimes we can afford to keep on the lights and the gas because, we're paying the rent. We got them in decent homes. They used to have homes with no running water, walking 2 miles to get water. So I was able to put them in decent homes. But I'm stressed out. So it's great. Order food, clothing, and hopefully some beds and some furniture.
How can one contact you about the African outreach, or if someone wants to call you about questions or comments?
Yes. Now, if anybody want to call me, my number is 870-494-5638. And if anybody wants to donate, I'm giving you my Zelle number and my Cash App number.
All right.
For Zelle, my Zelle account, you would type in 870-494-5638. And for Cash App, it would be the same number, just put a $sign before and a 1 on the end.
Okay.
So that's for Zelle and Cash App. So 870-494-5638. And we would sure appreciate it. Any help somebody can give. The need is so desperate.
Sure. And then you can also contact us to connect with Pastor Brown, and that number is 478-283-9093. And we will convey the message to him if you want to connect with him and the African update.
Yeah.
Friends, if you're a Church of God minister, pastor, I want to say hello to you, and we do honor you. I want you to know that whether you're in Mississippi, whether you're in Jackson, whether you're in Ohio, whether you're in California, whether you're in Africa, wherever you are, Church of God minister and pastor, we honor you, we support you, we love you. And you're the best and the brightest that the world has to offer, and we thank God for you. And tonight we have a pastor here with us, and we just thank God for that. To our questions. Pastor Brown, we've been talking about backsliding the past couple of weeks, and we've had some good speakers on. We wanted to get a pastor's perspective on it to help us to know what to look for so we can share our own experiences. So what are the signs of backsliding? What are the signs of backsliding?
To me, the signs of backsliding is mainly two things. Number one, the person will become worldly.
Okay.
And of course, the way you can become worldly, just different way. But number one, they will become worldly. And number two, they will become impure. It seems like those are the two big of backslide. Number one, they will become worldly. And number two, they will become impure.
Wow. In your observation, the past 35, 40 years, Brand Church of God, do you see people going out singly or they go out in groups sometime? What is more common? Those that backslide single or go in a group?
All right, to me, it's like salvation. You can only get saved single, and no one backslide in a group until you see a group leave. So if a person backslide, it has to be single because God put it in front of every person, and you got to break through that hedge to backslide.
That's true. Appreciate that. Any questions coming in from our listeners?
Not at the moment, no, sir.
Brother Pastor Brown, if a husband or wife backslides and the wife says, look, I'm going to stay in, you're talking to some tonight that's occurring with this. One of the spouses have decided to leave. What encouragement can you give the spouse who wants to remain saved?
Oh, now that is a good question. And my advice is to do what God did when his wife backslid.
Yeah.
And that is he kept protecting her. So my advice to spouses, if you want to stay saved, keep protecting that person. And God will keep protecting you and keep you safe. But you got to keep protecting that person. That's what God did to his wife, Israel. He kept, even if she was backsliding, he kept protecting her.
So maintain that. Sure. Maintain that love and that support and that being there for them.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. In this way, God will keep protecting you and keep you saved. Amen. But it's important to keep protecting that a spouse.
So I should protect that spouse in the good times, in the bad times. Just maintain that.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Hey, because look, we have to remember, going back to the certain signs that people backslide. Once they backslide, they have lost their first love and their zeal is quenched. So they need protection.
Wow. Thank you. So if any time they need protecting, it's right then because they have lost their defense, evidently.
Wow. That's right. Yes. Yes. So still
great point. Great point.
Yeah, it is.
Protect. Yes. Thank you. Yes.
So we should not be adversaries, we shouldn't be going against them or trying to harm them, but trying to protect them.
That's right. Yeah. Treating them as some unclean thing. You don't want to be around them. You don't want to hang with them. No, keep protecting them. They need more protection than ever before.
And Brother Brown, I'm sensing that backslid spouse can sense that you're trying to help and protect. Can they sense that, do you think?
Yes, sure. Yes.
And that's the type of love. That's the type of love to protect and secure.
That's right. Yes. Wow. That's so important. Yeah. Because look, I mean, God's wife, God said she went out and been with another man. And, but he kept on protecting her.
Right.
Very good.
Providing for her and
Yes. But he kept on protecting her.
Good point. Thank you for that. Good point.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah,
Pastor, what are the reasons that people backslide? Is there certain reasons? Is it the flesh, the world? Is it some bad doctrine? What is the reason? They get lazy, or this lukewarm age, or apostasy? What's the main reason that you've seen people backslide in your experience?
I really don't believe it's really anything in the world out there that really caused people to backslide. I think the real reason they become without strength, and they end up having no strength for service. That's what I think the real reason is, because the Bible says the joy of the Lord is your strength.
Right. Okay.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
Okay.
So we end up in a condition where they're just without strength. They have no more strength for service. Now, I believe that is the real reason why not no material thing out there. But now what comes next is this selfishness. Then they want somebody to tend to them. That comes next. Hey, it's all right. You get married, you want somebody to tend to you, but to a backslide.
Point well taken. Point well taken. I understand. So it's not so much.
I'm like, go ahead, brother.
So it's not so much without, but it's within what's going on where the issue starts.
Right. Yeah. They have no more strength. So once they got no more strength for service, it's over with, because the joy of the Lord is your strength. So they just become a person without strength, no more strength for service.
I'd like to make a comment, or at least a question. I really never saw it that way. Now, speaking of that joy, are you saying that that individual lost their joy in salvation? Is that how they became or started to decrease in strength?
Yeah. Right. Yes. Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. That's the main thing. I don't think anything out there. He may end up doing anything out in the world, but I think it was nothing in the world that drew him away. He just ended up being an individual without strength. And once you lost strength for service,
And so in that process, they lost the joy of the Lord for some reason. They begin to just got whatever. I mean, just whatever, whatever. Yeah, they begin to lose.
And so not out there in the world is waiting for them.
Right. Pastor Brown, does the devil know that a person's getting weak or losing strength? Can he tell that they're getting weaker than what they were a month or a year or 2 years ago?
Oh, yes. I mean, I always like to use the fall of Peter for an example. They started keeping afar off. I was preaching at a service one night, and I was preaching about Peter, and I was saying how people go from the front bench to the second bench to the fourth bench. I think finally they end up in the last bench, and at that service, everybody's sitting on the last bench. So I had to tell people, I ain't talking about you folks now. But really, it's like Peter, they start following afar off. So that tells me that they have ran into disappointment. It's something about we don't expect disappointment. We don't like disappointment. So that tells me they have ran into disappointment somewhere.
Sure.
And so they start following afar off and start losing strength. It's something about disappointment that it just affects people.
Let's expand on that disappointment. That can be a real poignant and powerful weapon the devil has to use sometimes, isn't it? Just when we're disappointed and hurt.
Yeah. I mean, because some things, I guess, because we don't have all intelligence like God has, and God is all wise. Sometimes, for example, we don't expect the Church of God to go through an hour of darkness or a time of darkness where the devil is given fair opportunity to crush truth down to the ground. But even Jesus had to go through his hour of darkness. He told Satan, this is your hour of darkness. So Jesus realized what would happen. He couldn't preach no more. He couldn't be free no more. Now he was bound up and he couldn't do his ministry, but he knew what was happening. So he told Satan, he said, this is your hour of darkness. So even as Christian, even the church, she got to realize that even the church, the devil has his hour. His opportunity to crush truth to the ground. And that's a disappointment a lot of people don't want Don't even expect. So disappointment, the devil uses that.
And so we have a choice to overcome that. No, we can overcome that
Oh,
darkness and that situation and keep moving on. Mm-hmm.
What's going on, and we have a choice to overcome that. But God don't spare us. He gives Satan his hour, his opportunity to crush truth out of our lives.
And it happens sometime, doesn't it? Sometime it happens to those at times.
Of course, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, disappointment is the main reason. If you really dig down deep, they're gonna suffer a great disappointment, something they wasn't expecting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pastor Brown, so I heard an interview some years ago by a prominent pastor. They were talking about certain times of year. There are seasons, and they were saying that summertime seems to be more people backslide more in the summer than the winter. What is your take on that? Are certain times of year more opulent to backsliding?
No, I don't believe so. I believe any time of the year, because the Bible gives a history that Israel, it was just a common thing for his people to backslide.
Summertime, wintertime, whenever, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad God put a fair record in the Bible.
Yeah, sure.
If you look at the history of God's people, it was so very common.
It was. When they had a lot, when they had a little, you're right about that.
Yes. I don't think it's any time of the year.
Pastor, but our next question, we're hearing a lot about depression and discouragement.
Yeah.
How does one fight against that? While you're thinking about that, some statistics that I was taking a look at some months ago, and the idea of depression and discouragement, I was shocked to see that in Japan in 2021, there were 415 suicides. These were children.
Wow.
And also in Japan, adults, can you believe it? 20,000 suicides. Now, in the counseling field, we connect suicide with depression. While I was a counselor, I'm retired now, the majority of the suicide individuals who I dealt with, they were in deep depression. And of course, here in the United States, in our United States, blessed country, 45,000 committed suicide. I mean, that's just shocking. And we had 1.9 million children. So the spirit seems to be so prevalent here, other places. What can one do to fight against discouragement and or depression?
Okay, the Bible teaches us that we have to fight off feelings.
It's true.
Okay, and so it's important that you fight off the feeling of aloneness. That is a feeling.
Yeah.
So you have to fight off the feeling of aloneness. That's number one. That's so important, because that's all it is. That feeling come over you, and you got to fight off the feeling of aloneness. Mm-hmm. Number two, you got to believe the truth that somebody do understand.
Yes.
Because those people leave it because they don't think. The devil convinced them nobody understands.
Right.
So those two things are important. You got to fight off the feeling of aloneness, and number two, you got to believe the truth that somebody do understand.
Friends, we're going to take a minute to just deviate here. This is the program podcast, Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches. We're here for you, those who might feel wounded, disenfranchised. We're a podcast for you to support you in this time that you can make it and you can go on to serve God. We're here to support you and help you in those three areas: healing, reconciliation, and forgiveness. We just touched briefly on with Pastor Brown about this idea of depression and discouragement and how devastating it was. And Pastor Brown said that two things. We've got to understand that someone understands and we're not by ourselves. Brother Brown, expand on that one more time, please.
Yes.
Two things.
Feeling, people don't realize this. Feelings are so powerful. They would destroy us. Feelings are so powerful. In fact, it'll cause you to even question your salvation. even though you're not saved by feeling. So we got to fight off all these different feelings, but especially the feeling of aloneness. You got to fight that off. Yes.
So, Pastor Brown, feelings can be almost real, can't they? Can be like a real entity, can't they?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And they may or may not be accurate.
That's right.
True.
Yeah. Yes. So we got to fight up, especially the feeling of aloneness, and remember the truth that somebody understands.
So, friends, tonight, if you're struggling or working or have fallen to depression or feeling no one understands, Pastor Brown's telling us on this counseling perspective, Wounded Hearts, that there's help. You don't have to stay in that position. Brother Brown, again, you mentioned those two areas where we're redundant, but I sense someone needs help tonight. And
Absolutely.
Here it is. So what were those two things one more time, please, that'll help out depression or discouragement?
Yes. Fight off the feeling of aloneness. That is a feeling. That's a feeling by itself. Fight off the feeling of aloneness. And remember the truth that somebody do understands.
I was counseling a fellow years ago, and he mentioned he went to a sports arena, 70,000. He said, I never felt more alone in my life. He was surrounded by people, but still the feeling of being alone to him was real psychologically. And he acted out on it.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I understand. Pastor Brown, you're talking to someone tonight who had difficulty in the church, and things got to them, and they left the church, backslid. What is your advice to them? Some situations were real, some situations were on purpose, some were maybe not on purpose, but they left the church, they left God. What is your advice to that person?
If you don't mind, let me answer that with that question. How can the backslider return to God?
All right, very good.
Earlier, I mentioned you backslide as an individual because you got to break down that hedge that God put before you. Mm-hmm. Now, to get back to God, you better really thank God when you get to heaven, because number one, He made the first move for your salvation, and without you even asking, He made the first move for you to return from your backslide. Because what He does, even though you broke down that first hedge, you're going to be sorry, because He's going to put another hedge in front of you that you can't break down.
That's true.
And that hedge going to be before you, and it's going to be full of thorns. And when you get through, you'll be ready to come back home. It might be sickness of the body, it might be bankruptcy, but in His love, you broke down that first hedge, He's going to put a second hedge in front of you that you can't break down. And when you get through with that head, you will be coming back to God. So God always makes the first move for the backslider to return, but not how do you get the healing? Because it got to be healed. So backsliding is healed when all the sin of it is forgiven.
So there's a healing that takes place in forgiveness.
But that's right. It has to be a healing, but the healing only takes place when all the sin of it has been forgiven.
So, friends, tonight, if you're wounded, and wounds hurt, in fact, one of our platform people said this couple last year. He said, wounded people. No, he said, hurt people hurt people. So, Pastor Brown, you're saying that as I give up sin, that will be a healing process, but it's got to all be given up to have that full healing?
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Once all sin is forgiven, you heal. That's right. That's how you get the healing, because you got to get the healing.
Right. Because if I'm still hurting, it's going to be tough. My question is this. If I'm still hurting and still wounded and bleeding, can I serve God in that condition?
It's not
be tough. It'll be hard.
No, because then you are unhealthy. You know, you really can't. Because then you're unhealthy. You got to be healthy if you're going to really serve God effectively. So long as you still want it, you're unhealthy.
Right.
So you need to be healthy. You need to bring you back to whole health.
Friends, our time is gone tonight. We do appreciate Pastor Brown and his witty biblical advice for us. This is Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches. And again, we are here for you. We're the only podcast that's by Church of God, for Church of God. And we're reaching out to you today to let you know we're ready to help you in those times of hurting and being disenfranchised or affected. And we just thank God for you tonight, Pastor Brown, for being here, our staff doing a wonderful job. May the Lord bless you. We'll see you next week, next Thursday at 7:00. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Amen.